Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the space where silence speaks, healing breathes. I'm your host, Danny Francois, and today we're diving deep, not into the polished answers or the highlighted reels, but into the raw, unfiltered layers of what it means to be human. This podcast is for the ones who feel too much, for the ones who've been told to get over it, for the ones still learning to stay present in a world that moves too damn fast. Here we're talking about mental health. We talk about relationship, the ones builds us, breaks us, and teaches us. We talk about stigmas, the quiet shame, the cultural silence, and the inherent weight. And we talk about the healing, not the Instagram version, but the messy, nonlinear, whole retching kind version. So today on this segment, we are going to be talking about the how healing can be messy. Healing isn't always a straight line. It's a spiral, a stumble, a slow unraveling of everything we thought we had to hide. Sometimes it looks like progress, sometimes it looks like relapse, and sometimes it looks like sitting in your car at 2 a.m. wondering if you're still worth saving. Today, we're talking about a sensitive topic, and I'm not a doctor. I don't say or do or pronounce anything. This is just all raw. Today, we're talking about addiction, not just the substance, but the story behind it, the pain it numbs, the identity it distorts, and the strength it takes to choose life again. I want to introduce someone, a good friend of mine, whose story lives beneath the surface, someone who's walked through the fire and found a way to breathe again. They battle addiction, face the stigma, and now use their voice to help find others in similar situations and also to help them with whatever they're going through. Today, let's welcome Bailey.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me.
So, Bailey, I know it's been a while, and I know we talked on the side and we talked about briefly about your story, and I just wanted to invite you on and have you tell others about your story of addiction and how you overcame it.
Yeah, thanks. I love opportunities to be able to share my story. I know that, I hope that in some way, even just listening to someone else's story, it can help someone else on their journey. Whether they're struggling with addiction, active addiction, or hoping or working towards getting clean. So I feel like that's a big part of me these days, because of how young I was when my story started. So, should I just dive right in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
We're all
uh,
ears.
awesome. So, we got to take it all the way back to when I was 15, over 20 years ago, actually, which is an insane age to even think of. My story starts, unfortunately, with an illness that I um, was affected with. Is a very rare blood disease, actually. Uh, Lemire syndrome. There have been about 60 cases, I think, since the 1960s. So it's literally like a one in a million disease. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I won't go into too much detail about that, but I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and a day. I was 15 years old, literally on my deathbed, almost died. Um, and then the doctors were able to help me make a full recovery. And thankfully, I can never contract that again. But unfortunately, when I left the hospital, life just did not feel the same. It was not the life of a 15-year-old anymore. That was so traumatic being in the hospital that I didn't know what to do or how to act normal anymore. I didn't know how to go back to normal. My normal in the hospital for so long had been, waking up every couple of hours, being poked and prodded at. Um, Thankfully, at least I had my health, but because of what had happened to me in the hospital, I was failing in almost every other aspect of my life: school, family, friends, relationships. Because again, I just was holding on to that trauma, and didn't know how to process it. Um, again, I was healthy. I got my first job. My parents thought that maybe me getting a job would help me. get back on track, be able to see the positive in life, keep myself busy, idle hands kind of thing. Unfortunately, that was the worst mistake um, ever because the job that I took, I got a job working at Sonic, and I was hanging out with a bunch of people who were way older than me. I was a car hop and a barista at Sonic. And it started really slow. We, smoke some weed in the back on our breaks and stuff like that. And I thought it was cool because I'm like 15, hanging out with all these adults, and of course at the time, haha, weed, getting high, whatever. But
Right.
then it morphed into something different. The longer I was there, the more comfortable my managers got with sharing their other extracurricular activities with me. So this is a really fucked up, gross, dark story about grooming, drug addiction, sexual assault. I just want to go ahead and say that
Right.
before I dive into it any further. Um, it started with cocaine. Um, so I went straight
Wow.
from smoking weed for my first time to trying cocaine in the bathroom at my job with a 30-year-old man. Um, which at the time, again, seemed cool. Teenagers do stupid shit like that all the time. Obviously, in retrospect, not fucking cool. Um, so it had gone on for a few months. It started with just, a few hits here, a few hits there. Only when I was at work. Um, only when they had it and were willing to offer it. Up until that point, I hadn't really paid for anything that I was consuming. But then it turned into parties on the weekends when we weren't working together. We were partying together, which turned into doing what I guess currently is called Molly, but back in the day they were beans for me. Molly,
Mm.
I guess, is like the pure form, but these beans were fucked up and cut with all sorts of shit. Um, I remember specifically one of them telling me, because I was scared. I was like, can't you die from this? Again, 15 years old.
Yeah.
He's like, no. He's like, if you take one and you don't die from it, you're perfectly safe to take them anytime. And I really took that as law because, again, he was older than me. Obviously, he knew better than I did. So I tried my first bean. It was so like I don't want to say it was incredible, but it took me away from the trauma that I carried with me every day. Like it I don't know. It just, yeah, that's how it started, as an escape. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
started as a casual thing, and then it turned into, wow, I can use this to escape the reality that I live in. I suck at everything in life right now because I can't recover. I can't mentally, tackle this issue by myself. Um, so
So kind of it was like your home away from home kind of thing, away from
yeah,
the BS, away from the drama, everything that was
yeah,
piling
exactly.
on. So you
Even
just
though
kind of like escaped from it.
Yeah, and even though I knew what I was doing wasn't healthy, wasn't a healthy way of coping, it was the only way it was the only
Mm.
coping mechanism that had been offered to me. Um, my parents didn't offer therapy. They were supportive. I'm not trying to say they were horrible people, but they could only do so much. So
Right.
I turned to these drugs and used them as therapy. And I would go, it started, doing one bean here or there on a weekend, and then it morphed into this full blown addiction where I'm spending my own money on these drugs now. I'm bringing my own drugs with me to work. I'm doing bumps in the bathroom. I'm going to parties on the weekends with them. I'm taking way too many beans. I'm getting way too high. I am, rolling for way longer than I originally was. I just kept getting deeper and deeper into it without, I guess I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten either, because I was just having so much fun ignoring, you know, everything. I fucking hated myself. I hated how I looked. I hated the everything. So this was just a way for me to, cope, and it got really bad. I literally was willing to try anything. I uh God damn, some of this is like hard to talk about. Um, the any bean anybody brought me, I trusted it. I remember, I know that in the beginning they weren't horribly laced with stuff, but towards the end, the colors of the beans, I don't know if you have much experience with drugs in that aspect, but the colors of them started changing and getting darker. And I should have known then that it was cut with heavier stuff,
Hmm.
like heroin and other, um, sorry, hang on. I thought I was ready to do this.
You're good.
um,
Take your time.
yeah, so one night, this was like this was months into it,
Hmm.
6 months at least. I had been partying every weekend. I don't know how I had managed to hide my drug addiction from my parents for as long as I had. But I was back at a house party again with all of these older men who were my managers at work. I They brought these black. They were black. They didn't have anything printed on them. Usually, when we would buy them, they would have like a naked lady or something, like a stamp in them. They were easily identifiable, Supermans, different stuff like that. But these were just, they were just black, just black pills. And I was a drug addict at that point. What was I going to do? Say no? I mean, you put it in my face, I'm going to take it.
Right.
Um, I mean, and up until that point too, I had tried doing it all sorts of different ways. I had taken pills orally. I had done something called parachuting, where you crush them up and put them in a piece of toilet paper and put them up your butt. Literally,
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm pretty sure at a certain point, like now in retrospect, I don't think I realized then, but in retrospect, the more I've thought about it and recovered from it and processed
Hmm.
what I did to myself and what happened to me, I think I was actively trying to kill myself. So I was open to doing more and more and taking, bigger risks. But the bad, like when it started getting really bad, and when I was able to notice even through the active addiction that it was bad, was the night when they
Hmm.
brought those black ones. I started with two. I remember, it started out, it was fine. Everything was totally normal.
Hmm.
I took two more a few hours later into the night. Obviously, like when you're on drugs, you don't realize how much time is passing. So to me, it felt like it had been a few hours, but it could have been 30 minutes for all I know. It could have been a day at that point, because we were inside, lights off, windows were blocked. We playing with
Right.
our light sticks and warm blankets and stuff. So I took more, and that was that was when it's so weird, because like it was like a movie. Everything was slow motion, and like there were trails, and it was like it just started to feel ominous and fucking scary, and I started feeling tired, which is like very um not normal for beans. Those are uppers. They make you want to party all night. You don't want
Right.
to stop until fucking sunrise. um
So
so
you knew something was up. You were just
I knew
like
something was up.
something was not right about these versions of the beans that you were taking. So yeah.
Yeah, I had realized, I think, at a point that I probably had just been poisoned. So I snuck away into a bedroom and laid down. I covered my head with a pillow and, sunk into the blanket. It felt like I literally like just melted into the bed. Obviously, under the influence of, so I'm feeling extra sensory, and I don't know how long I laid there for. I think I fell asleep for a while. Could have been 10 minutes, it could have been an hour. um, One of my managers came in, checked on me, asked how I was doing. I told him I wasn't feeling great. Um, and then another one of my managers came in, asked the same thing. They're acting really concerned. And one of them laid on the bed with me to rub my shoulders, rub my head, see if, anything like that would help me. And I'm not sure if I had given them the wrong impression, or if I still, like, I'm foggy on a lot of those memories, like how I connect the dots, because because of the drug use. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it was my fault, but I can't say for certain that I didn't give them the wrong impression. I was laying in bed with a grown man, with two grown men, rubbing on me under the influence of drugs, and um, one thing led to another, and they're on top of me. I do know I at least tried to say no and fight back. Again, I the I think a lot of my I think a lot of that is still blocked out of my memory, my brain trying to protect me from
Of
it.
course.
Um, but I knew I was coherent enough to know what was happening and to know that I didn't want it to be happening that way. I know, like previously before this night, we had, been getting comfortable with each other, doing, back massages, making out, stuff like that. Um, so I don't know if they had ill intent in their souls, or if they just thought that this was their chance. I had opened the door, something like that. Um, but it left me when it was done. It left me really fucking confused. Again, 15 years old. I hadn't had sex until that point in my life, so it left me feeling really confused. I remember back then I called a taxi. I called a taxi home because I was scared to call my mom. Um, I went home. I snuck in through the laundry room door and crawled into my bed. My sister was there sleeping peacefully like a sweet baby angel. She was always so perfect. She got straight A's. She never did anything fucking wrong.
Right.
Nothing bad ever happened to her. And I remember I was just laying there. I was looking at her. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, what did I do with my fucking life? I'm going to cry. um, just regretting all of my life's choices, not just because that had happened to me that night, but because that was the realization that I was like, I've gone too far. Um, this isn't healthy. I'm going to kill myself, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I knew that it could only end, um, badly. By then the sun was rising, and I it was raining that morning. My parents were up. They always woke up really early, sunrise. They were watching, the news, looking at the weather. There might have been like a hurricane or a tropical storm, something coming through the area, but I know it was
Mhm.
raining. I got up out of bed. I went to the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom. Obviously, the drugs still haven't worn off yet because I'm hallucinating at this point, which means that it was cut with other stuff. I will never be sure what those um, pills were cut with that night. Um, but I was hallucinating on the toilet. There was a bubble man. I think about him all the time. Like I try to ask myself, like, try to figure out in my brain what did the bubble man represent, if
Right.
anything, other than just my insanity.
Mhm.
He was just floating there in the bathroom. I was trying to do a poo, couldn't because of the drugs. Came out of the bathroom, laid on the couch, and tried my hardest to act normal. I was like, they'll never know. My parents, they grew up in the 70s. I should have known better.
Right.
They probably had their fair share of drug use. I'm not 100% sure. My mom's never been completely open with me about that. Um, my mom asked me if I wanted some breakfast. I agreed. I sat at the table with them, and I'm sitting across from my mom, and she looks at me. She's like, "You're high." Like it wasn't even a question. Like she knew it, and I knew it too. And my stepdad, Papa, that's what I call him,
Mhm.
was there also. We all knew it. There was no denying it. Um, and those two words, literally was the beginning of my healing journey. And like some people I know, I I'm lucky. I didn't I didn't struggle to get clean after. I'll go into detail on how my parents literally saved my fucking life.
Right.
I know that I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a support system. I had a desire, and I'm also really fucking stubborn. And when I make a fucking decision, I stick with it. So once I, once me and my parents, you know, I knew that I wanted to be clean too. Okay. So my mom loaded me up in the car. She brought me over to my dad's house. My parents were divorced. Brought me over to my dad's house, talked about the thing. They all went over, you know, options, treatment facilities, you know, whatever. We ultimately decided, they ultimately decided, they did not give me any say. They told me to shut the fuck up. You have already done enough. Um,
Right.
I mean, if you think about it from my mom's perspective, her daughter, her 15-year-old daughter, had almost died in the hospital just,
Right.
you know, 8 months ago. And now she's in active addiction, clearly coming home fucking high as fuck. Um, you know, so I understand the way she responded to me, and it was necessary. I would have done the same thing if it was my daughter. But
Hmm.
my uncle, my mom's brother, was currently in a halfway house recovering from heroin, a heroin addiction of all things.
Hmm.
Um, and was getting ready to be able to fully move back in with his wife and their three kids, my cousins. Literally, like, it was within a week's time that all of these things, it was so weird. It was like, I don't want to say divine intervention, like, at all, because
Right.
I don't personally subscribe to that belief system, but it could not have been more perfect timing for me uh, to start my journey to recovery. Um,
So it
I
was not, so it wasn't like a divine intervention, but it was kind of like an aha moment kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, who better to help me with my recovery rather than
mm,
going into a recovery center and it being, you know, it following me for the rest of my life on my medical records, and then my uncle, who literally just did. He just finished his journey. So my parents loaded me up and brought me down to my uncle's house. They lived South Florida in a little town called Rotunda. I
okay.
didn't know fucking anybody there. I was still fucking high. These drugs took at least 5 days to wear out of my system. Again, that's how I know they were cut with something that was insane. Usually, you know, you do beans 12 hours, you know, and you're usually good. But these ones affected me for days. I was on my way down to, it was like an hour and a half drive. I was sobering up, so I have better memories of that part. You know, I got there, I said hi to my cousins. You know, I had a one cousin was older. He was 17. My cousin, I had another cousin my age, and then there was the third one was 11, I think. So it was really, they already all knew why I was there. And I feel like, like in retrospect too, when I think about it, I wonder if I took something from my youngest cousin because she shouldn't have necessarily been exposed to um, someone in active addiction and recovery, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they brought me down there and they fucking made really strict rules. They made me go grocery shopping and build a list of um, dinners. I did chores. I was literally their live-in maid. Um, I did everything. It kept me busy. They didn't let me make any phone calls. I was able to call my parents, but they had to be staying there and watching me. Literally, it was like I was in a fucking recovery center, but just without all of the negative, you know, things that follow actually going into recovery. And like I said, I know I'm lucky because mine was easy. But I swear to God, when I was there for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and when all was said and done, my mom came and picked me up. I swear to God, I was a new fucking person. I had a new look on life. I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to see my fucking sister or my stepsister. I wanted, you know, my brother, my little brother. I wanted to go back home and see my dog. Like, I felt like a totally different fucking person. And I swear to God, that one tiny little decision that my mom made right then to send me down to my uncle's quite literally saved my life. If they wouldn't have done that, if they wouldn't have caught me, on those drugs that morning, I would have, I probably would have died, or currently still been in active addiction to this day.
Right.
Um, I can't say that life has been perfect since then, obviously, because of the trauma associated with it, with the hospital stay and what happened to me at the parties. Um, I've lived with depression and anxiety my whole life because of it.
Hmm.
I started to lean on alcohol when I got a little bit older. Um, that was only, it was like a year. I drank a lot. Um, but I woke up one morning sick as fuck. I was like, I'm never gonna drink again. And I know most people are like, they say that in jest. They're like, haha. And then by the end of the night, they're
Yeah.
drinking again. They're like, one won't hurt me. But again, I'm a stubborn fucking ass.
Hmm.
And I meant it. And I meant it. So I stopped drinking alcohol too. And I have been completely sober since then, aside from the occasional, I use marijuana for medicinally, and I occasionally do mushrooms to keep my mind open and um accepting. um but other than that, I never touched beans, I never touched coke. My parents got the men that were involved in getting me hooked on drugs,
Oh wow.
grooming, and sexually assaulting me arrested. Um, and I think when they got arrested, it like that was another click for me. That was another click for me. It really felt like I could finally like move on from it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like I still I I it's funny because I'll joke with our friend, our friend, and tell her that I'm still in active addiction, because I do still think about cocaine every single day of my fucking life. I don't know if I think about it because I want to do it, if I miss those times, if I'm still trying to connect the dots on, like the memories, how things went, how things happened, because I truly do not remember a lot of it. Um, but I don't actually struggle with my sobriety, and haven't since I left my uncle's house that day. Um, and since I decided to not drink alcohol, my dad, again, he's a functioning alcoholic. That was also, a driving factor to, making me want to stay sober from alcohol also. But I am 30. I'll be 37 in December. So what's that? 17 years off of hard drugs, and 15, I
Hmm.
think. I stopped counting, honestly. I think that's where I'm at, 15
Okay.
years sober from alcohol. I gauge my alcohol because it was right before I got pregnant, um, with my daughter,
Hmm.
that I decided I didn't want to drink anymore. And I gauge, that's my gauge. So, but yeah, look at me now. I am an advocate for anybody. I've never actually needed to go to like AA meetings, but I have been an advocate for people that need them, that need support, but don't want to go in an official like AA setting or NA
Hmm.
setting. I have made tons of friends who are also sober, and we all keep each other, you know, tip top. I know everybody's journey is different. So
Right.
some people struggle more than others. Some not so much. Some only struggle when, times are tough. But I don't know. I don't fucking know. I think I can attribute 100% of my sobriety to being a stubborn fucking ass. And once I decide I either want to do or don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it, or I
Right.
am going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look at me now. I'm fucking sweet baby angel, fully alive.
Right.
I hope that wasn't too much detail or too little
No,
detail.
no, no, no.
Uh,
I feel like it was perfect. I mean, it's kind of like your mentality is like kind of all or nothing kind of thing, and I think it's good to have that mentality, especially when it comes to, like in your case, addiction. And it's like, if I want to, like, you're a go getter. So if someone says like you need to do this, and it's just like, all right, bet, give me a couple minutes, I'll learn how
with
to do it, and then I'll do it. So,
Literally, as soon as someone tells me I can't do something, I swear to God, I'll make it my life's
yep.
mission to prove them wrong. You know what I mean? And like, again, driving factor, I know, like, maybe not when I was 15, I hadn't seen anybody else in active addiction and didn't know how hard the struggle is to stay clean. But now I know how hard it was. And I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm like, the best recovery or anything like
Right.
that, obviously, but I got very lucky to have a support system. It was literally right place, right time, everything. And because of who I am as a person, that also contributed to it working effectively and helping me detox and stay the fuck off of them. And now I don't even know friends who do that shit anymore. I don't hang out with people who I mean, I have we're all adults here.
Mhm.
People do their thing. They have their own vices, whatever. But because of where I'm at in my journey now, and it's just so normal, and this is just what my life is now. I don't judge. I offer help if somebody wants it. I don't want to overstep my boundary. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, help! I'm struggling with my active addiction," I will absolutely be there to support them. But I don't want them to feel like because I'm sober, they can't live their fucking life. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not the judgy type. Obviously, I wish better for, the people around me who may or may not be using, even if it's just recreationally, occasionally, whatever. Even if it doesn't seem to be like destroying their life the way mine was.
Right.
Um, but same with alcohol. I have no problem being around people who are drinking. I have no problem. I'll go to the bars and hang out with my friends. I'll do karaoke or listen to, music and dance, whatever, play pool. Um, and all everybody knows that I'm there if they need any support or a reason to stay sober or get sober or continue to stay sober. However, one of my good friends, I don't remember when it was. I swear, I was already on my journey. I must have been 5 years into it.
Hmm.
Um, he said only takes one sip to go back down to 0 days, and like, oh, it cut me deep. It cut me so deep because
Yeah.
the days matter. You know what I mean? At a certain point, you have so many of them. You're like, oh my fucking god, all I want to do is hold on to my days.
Yeah.
And that really, not that I wasn't struggling, but I've been able to share that little piece of advice or some, whatever, with other people that have reached out for support, on their journeys. And um I don't know, I'm really thankful for the I don't want this to sound weird, but I'm thankful for the experience,
Yeah.
living through it, because it gives me that much more understanding. I understand. You never know what's going on in people's brains or why they're. I don't think anybody starts an addiction and wants it to, get out of hand and consume their fucking life. Obviously, it's just like alcohol to me. Um, Shit sucks. And you want to get high
Hmm.
to escape it, and I fully understand how people make it there, you know. But it's the recovery part that's the hardest, when you realize that you've hit that rock bottom, and you don't know where you're like, I literally can't get any more fucked up at this, like, you're questioning your own fucking sanity and decisions. You're like, how did I get to this fucking point,
Right. Right.
um
So
but yeah,
let's.
no, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the experience. I'm thankful for my support system. I am thankful that I um am still alive
Yeah.
through all of it and have managed to survive. Your depression's just a bitch, okay?
Yeah.
And makes me think funny things sometimes, you know. Um I'm definitely not perfect. It has not been a perfect journey. I think I struggle more now though with my depression and anxiety than I ever did um, with my recovery. And I hope that doesn't make me sound like pretentious or
No.
anything
No.
like that. I know recovery is not easy. It's not easy like that for everybody. But it's like I relate it like like people give their birthing stories. Some women are in labor for 18 fucking hours,
Yeah.
and others sneeze and ta-da, there's a baby.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, it's the same way. I got lucky, and my recovery was easy. There wasn't really ever a struggle. Once I detoxed off the drugs, I stopped hanging out with grown men. Um, it just wasn't there anymore, and it wasn't an option. And I it just made it easier for me. And I know that I know that's not always the case for for other people in active addiction or
Of
trying to
course.
recover.
And I guess
Um,
that's kind of like the purpose of this episode, where we're saying that healing can be messy,
yeah.
but if you put in the time and the effort, then, and especially like with the strong support system like you had with your family, then it's definitely possible to get on that road of recovery and basically make that quick action decision, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's an eye opener. It's basically like, basically splash water in your face. You're like, holy shit, like, how did I end up here? Like, I need to get better, not only for myself, but for my family, for my friends, for people that are close to me. And I guess like some things that like I want to know, or even some of our listeners want to know, is like, what do you wish people understood about addiction and healing? Like the
Um,
stigmas, like the stigmas behind it, like, or just in general.
the only thing I can say is fuck. Drugs are fun. Okay. Um, drugs are easy to get a hold of these days. They've always been easy. It's easy to fall into that cycle. It's easy to get caught up in it and think that it's harmless at first, but if you don't maintain some level of self-control, um it can get bad. I mean, especially depending on your personality. I have a very addictive personality. You give me
Mm,
anything, a hobby even, I'm gonna get addicted to it. um so it really just it varies from person to person. And I know there is a lot of stigma around um drug users and stuff like that. I I actually hate the way the world sees people in active addiction. They clearly need help or support in some way. um they're lacking family or friends that care about them, or maybe they've pushed everybody away. Again, it's hard to say. You never know what anybody, any one person's situation is like. um but the stigma around it is not fair to me, because I think if you look around outside, you can see that we live in an imperfect world,
yeah.
and it's really not fucking hard to make the decision to use drugs to escape it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the same as alcohol. I mean, and alcohol is so widely accepted, like it's just a normal thing. You can be, you can abuse and become addicted to alcohol just the same.
Right.
Just because it's legal and you can buy it with an ID in a store doesn't make it any more healthy or better of an addiction than someone who's actively, in a heroin addiction, or uh, any other, meth, any of these things. I mean, it's easy. You get caught up with the wrong people, peer pressure, life, environmental things around you. It's easy to get caught up and forget,
Right.
how who your health or your own, mental is important. To me, I used it literally to escape so I could ignore it, because the idea of going through years of therapy and sitting and connecting all these dots and stuff like that, processing the trauma of me being in the hospital, like it was so much easier to just get fucking high and ignore that and pretend like it just never happened. So I personally didn't really experience any stigma surrounding my drug use. I was with everybody. I was with people who were doing it. Um, but I know that can be isolating, and make you not feel great. It's really hard because like sometimes people will be like, "Oh, tough love is how you get people to be sober," but also sometimes I think just being gentle and kind and understanding helps too. You know,
Yeah. So what?
sometimes.
Yeah.
sometimes
And I
being non-judgmental and accepting
mhm.
someone's where they're at on their journey, is enough, you know,
Right.
or can at least be the first step for someone on, on their road to recovery.
So I was gonna say, like, if someone was listening to this podcast episode, right, and they're in the middle of an addiction right now, what's like the first step that you would give them that they can take in that step of healing, like in that step of recovery, like if you had any advice to give them?
That's a really hard one because I feel like any advice that I'm going to be able to say right now is going to be stereotypical shit that you hear all the fucking time at recovery centers or, from your family members or friends who just don't understand. Um, so what I'm going to say is, it can get better if you want
Hmm.
it to. If you
Okay.
want it to. Um, yeah. I mean, some people some people want to choose drugs and they just want to keep doing them and they don't feel like they want to get clean. And I think in that aspect we should offer them a clean and safe environment to do it. I like the needle swaps. People getting certified in Narcan delivery and carrying Narcan just in case. We can only do what we can do. It does require some participation from them on their part, but
Mm.
the first step is no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that. That's like so, to me, that is like someone who's never been in active addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like easy way of saying, oh, you're sad? Just don't be sad. Like, you don't understand depression. You don't understand drug use if that's how you're saying to fix it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But you have to hit that point in your life, whether it takes you 3 months into your drug addiction or 3 years. You know what I mean? You have to
Yeah.
hit that point before you're willing to participate in your own recovery.
So when you were talking about like when your parents made that decision to like basically pack you up and move you to your uncle's house for that little bit, kind of like an eye-opening experience. How long were you there for? Like, was it like just like that one day, or was it like a week, a couple
No, I
months?
was there for like 2.5 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And for the first 5 days I was there, I was still actively detoxing. I was still hallucinating. I remember my cousins wanted to watch it, and I have always been terrified of clowns. Um, but I laid in bed and because that was what my parents and my uncle wanted, my aunt and uncle wanted from the experience, was for me to spend more time with kids my age, doing things that kids my age do, not drugs, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So on top of cooking and cleaning and doing the grocery shopping and all this stuff, they had a pool, and my cousins had a gigantic California king size bed that we'd all roll around in and watch movies and hang out. It was like a really positive experience, but I was still actively detoxing for at least the first 5 days. I was falling asleep one night. I like vividly remember this. And it's so crazy because a lot of my memories are not this vivid. But we had just
Hmm.
finished watching It. Scared the fuck out of me. Oh my god. Ugh. I still to this day have not watched the new It. I won't do it. I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm as terrified of clowns now, but I feel like I'm gonna associate it with the trauma of that just because I watched that movie when I was, in recovery. But
Right.
I remember it literally felt like I'm laying in the bed and it literally felt like someone stepped up onto the bed and put one leg over and one leg here and was standing over me, kind of like I was still high and someone was doing glow sticks over me. I opened my eyes expecting to see glow sticks because I
Right.
felt a presence there. You know what I mean? There was something there. I opened my eyes and there was nothing there. Um, I never did see the Bubble Man again. I never did see him again. But I was very sick. I was waking up in the middle of the night, active cold sweats, throwing up, didn't want to eat. Oh my god, I was so skinny and so gross looking because of the drugs that I had chosen to do anyways. Make you not want to eat, take care of yourself. They're uppers, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
partying, I'm dancing all night long. I'm not thinking about fucking dinner, you know what I mean? So, that was another thing too, looking at myself and just like literally coming face to face with the monster that I had literally created, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
participated in creating. I didn't want to, I, and like when I was in the hospital, I had lost a lot of fucking weight because I was really sick in the hospital too. So I was already very skinny for, my age and height. I was very underweight because of that. And then jumping right into an addiction of uppers and continuing to not take care of myself. I fucking barely drank water. I feel like I lived off of like, cherry limeades from Sonic. Um, I I just looked fucking gross. And the, I wouldn't have taken it from anybody else. If anybody else was like, you look fucking nasty, you look like a fucking druggie or anything, I would not have listened to them. But the only person who can judge me is me.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I promise you, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't said 6 inches from a mirror. And I fucking, like, I laid into myself. I looked at myself and like, this is fucking filthy gross, dude. Like, your siblings are seeing you like this, your family is seeing you like this, your cousins, like, it's just ugly. And not, and I want to say that in a way where I'm saying that people in active addiction are ugly or anything like that, but there are physical characteristics that just didn't I didn't want to continue experiencing anymore. Um, and that was a big one. But yeah, I was there for about 2.5 weeks. My I was fully detoxed, didn't touch anything. And now when I got back home, it wasn't all hunky dory, like I could just return back to normal. Obviously, I was just there to detox rather than going to a facility, like a rehab center. So my parents picked me up once my uncle was convinced that I was fully clean off of the drugs. And then from there, I was like grounded all the fucking time. I couldn't go anywhere. If I wanted to go somewhere, my parents had to come with me, or like there were very specific rules and regulations, which of course at the time, by then I was, 16 and a half, maybe, whatever, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
um at the time that was annoying because I want to get back to being a normal teenager, you know what I mean? Go
Right.
and hang out with my friends,
Yeah.
go to the roller skating rink, stuff like that. But I fully understood why they were being strict. They were trying to protect me. And my parents might not be perfect, and my relationship with my parents has not been perfect since then either. But I swear to God, they that one thing I'll never ever take from them. They knew exactly how to approach that situation, and with the support of my other family members, my cousins, my siblings, I managed to make it through the worst of it. And it's like, it's crazy because once I got back to my uncle's house, I don't even remember thinking about doing drugs at all, ever
Mm-hmm.
again. I don't think they even crossed my mind, until I was like an adult when somebody offered me mushrooms. I was like, I've never done those. Is that weird? Um, but whatever, that's a totally different topic. But I literally for years did not, I didn't even think about it. I just wanted to go back to being a kid and finish out the rest of my teenage years. And, you know, I don't know, man. It's so crazy because like it's wild how it literally just like it was just a switch. I was
Yeah.
addicted to drugs, and then I wasn't addicted to drugs. And I might not even be the best person to be the authority or give any advice on this because I didn't struggle in the way that I know most people do
Mm-hmm.
with their addiction or their recovery.
No, but I mean, I think, and the thing is, like, even though every person's recovery story is different, I think it still needs to be heard, and I think it still needs to be talked about because, like, everybody's path is kind of different. It's not all linear. It's not straightforward. It's just like we all go in different wavelengths and different rides, kind of like a roller coaster. Some has loop de loops, some has like straight shots up there, and then it drops down. Like it just depends. But I mean,
The big
But
one for me that helps contribute to staying clean and knowing that I'm on the right path is my two beautiful baby children. I
mm,
My daughter is the age now where I was when I had an active cocaine addiction. Um, and she won't even sneak into the movie theaters. Okay? Um, so somewhere, I did something right by myself and by them. And like, I remember when she turned 15, the day I was like, oh my fucking God, she made it. She's here. You know what I mean?
yeah.
She did it. Hasn't touched a cigarette, hasn't touched a weed, doesn't even have boyfriends. Like, I'm like, how did something so messy that I experienced in my life end up being the thing that I needed to actually be a good fucking mom to my kids and a good example to them? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, so they're a big reason why I continue to stay clean and why it's not even an option. My kids have never there as long as my kids have been alive, there has never been any alcohol in my house. And like that is such a huge thing because I know, parents drink casually. They have some beers on Sunday while they're watching football and stuff like that. And again, I'm not judging. People can drink responsibly, you know what I mean? But
mm.
just that one thing alone right there, I feel like I've done a good thing by my kids by not having to expose them to that, or feeling necessary, like it they keep me alive too. They help me, when I'm struggling with my depression. Uh, you know, the
Well,
little
that's good.
sweet face.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's it's. I don't want to lie to you. I was kind of tearing up a little bit when you were telling your story and the whole recovery and
I'm
everything, but
surprised I didn't actually cry.
but no, I mean, I think this was good, and I do appreciate you taking time to speak to us
Thanks for
because
listening. It feels
there's
good to like get this out. I only talked about like my full story a few times with people very close to me, people, that longtime friends, So
mm,
being able to talk about, this story it's that's a coping mechanism, that's coping for me too. It helps me, you know, uh know that I'm still on the right path and that my journey has at least, inspired other people in various stages of their life in or outside of addiction. And I love being able to share that um, with everybody.
well, your story is a reminder that healing isn't perfection. It's about being presence. It's about showing up even when it hurts, and it's about choosing yourself again and again and again, even when you think that you don't deserve it. You do. To anyone who's listening, who struggle with this, who struggle with mental health in general, this space is for you. You are not broken. You are becoming. And until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening beneath the surface. I'm Danny Francois, and this is Bailey. And
But thanks again for having me.
thanks for joining us.